Jim Malloy. And how I know Jim Malloy, Jim is recently retired New York City Transit conductor. He was a conductor on the D line up on 205th Street. For how long were you a conductor, Jim?
Almost 30 years, 29 and a half.
29. We can say 30.
Okay.
No one's going to look. No one's going to check. Anyway, Jim was a conductor for 30 years, and I got to meet Jim when I would travel uptown, and Jim would be on the starting end of 205th Street. And Jim came all the way to Staten Island in regards to, he lives in Westchester County, and he motorcycled down to Staten Island just to be on the show. And how we got onto this thing, since Jim retired, Jim's been doing a lot of traveling. Jim has been doing a lot of traveling. It's doesn't have to get up early anymore. And anyway, I'll let Jim. Jim, where was your recent excursion?
Well, my recent excursion was Salt Lake City, Utah. And the reason for that was they introduced or reintroduced the 4014 Big Boy from Union Pacific. And it was also the 150th anniversary of the Golden Spike at Promontory Summit in Utah.
Right. So Jim had called me up and he had said to me, now I want to give some background here. Jim is a motorcycle enthusiast. You used to do racing, right?
Yeah, still do.
Still do, right. And you went to Sturgis?
Sturgis, Daytona. I mean, I've been to Illinois. I've been, I think I raced in 6 different states, 7.
Right. So Jim,
right.
Jim. When I met Jim in the transit, he told me about his enthusiasm for bikes. Jim has an interest in model railroading, but it's not like us.
No, it's not.
It's not like this. Look around.
But I'm engaged. My father does Engage. We've been in Engage for probably 40 years. And we've probably got about 1,000 pieces of rolling stock. And he has a board, set up at the house upstate. But, I don't play with it that often. So
see,
that's I'm limited.
See, he's not really a model railroad because he said play with it, whereas as us model railroaders would say, well, we operated on it. Anyway. I regress. Okay. Getting back. So Jim's a motorcyclist and he's a bike enthusiast. And like I said, he's done some racing professionally as well as amateur. And he calls me up one day and he says, you never guess, I'm going out to Utah to see the Big Boy. Because how did you find out about it?
Well, the first was being at a motorcycle race in Pomona, California. I was out there for a week vacation, and we were watching the professionals race at Pomona. And on the fairgrounds, they have a railroad museum. And they had, probably 10, 12 steam engines and a few other diesels, all mostly Union Pacific and Santa Fe equipment. And they had a Big Boy there. And this was about 10 years ago. And we were playing, we can get on the trains, sit in the cabs, it was a nice day. And then about 4 years ago, they moved that particular train from California to Cheyenne, Wyoming, to the Union Pacific main headquarters and shops to rebuild it and to put it back in service. So it drew my interest because, here we are, I saw the train as dead stock and we played on it and now it's going to be alive again. So when they said they were putting it out, I said, I'm going to see it. And we did.
And who did you go with?
I went with my father. I convinced him. It only took me about 15 minutes to convince him. I says, this is a once in a lifetime type of deal. You got to go. And then when I told him I said, I got flights for $240 and hotel. I says, $450. That's all it's going to cost you, and we'll go. So he says, okay, I'm in.
Now your father's a retired bus driver. And how old is your dad, Jim?
80 years old.
So here's an 80-year-old man. And what did your mother say to your father when you were going?
Well, my father being retired for over 30 years, about 30 years, he has no time clock, so 2 o'clock in the afternoon is wake up time, So my mother told him, if you got to get up at 6 in the morning, you're getting up 6 in the morning, and don't give your son a hard time about anything, and it worked out good, because we were on time for almost everything we did.
We did, yeah. So Jim calls me up and he tells me he's going out there, and like everything else, he let me know he was going, and I put it on the back burner, and I was like, okay, that sounds good. And then one day I was sitting home in the afternoon, and I get a FaceTime from Jim, and all I see is this deep blue sky, and then I see Jim, and Jim is like, I'm here, look at this, and he points the camera towards the two engines are face to face, and I'm like, you're actually there. And he goes, yeah, I'm right there right now. They're kind of gonna what were they gonna do?
Well, Union Pacific had their own kind of golden spike moment. It was on May 9th, which was on Thursday, and they just had the two engines, the Big Boy and the 844 Great Northern that UP has. And they put them nose to nose, and they did, a golden spike ceremony, but the spike they used was probably 4 foot tall. So it was nice,
Yeah.
So, that was it. And there was probably, I think they estimated about 15,000 people were there, to see this. So it was very interesting.
Let me see if I can get this. Jim took this video, and see if I can screen share, and let's see, application. No, it's not letting it come up. Oh, I'm sorry for you guys that didn't hear.
Well, as y'all can see, we've got a momentary lapse in video here, but Bill will be back in a minute once he realizes he just hung up on me. So stand by. Boy, tonight it's nothing but all technical difficulties.
Yeah, technology. I pushed the wrong button at the wrong time. Yeah, I'm sorry, guys. Anyway, just to reiterate, this is my good friend Jimmy Malloy, James Malloy, Jim Malloy. Just don't call him late for dinner.
Yeah.
Malloy, nice Irish guy. And just to go back forward, because I understand we didn't have any sound. Jim is a former conductor for the New York City Transit Authority. He worked for over 30 years as a conductor on the train, and he retired. How long have you been retired now?
About 16 months now.
16 months. He just recently retired. So Jim's been doing a lot of traveling and going a lot of places, but one of the things he went to was to Ogden, Utah, where he went to see the Big Boy and the other engine. What was the other engine?
The Great North. That was an 844 Northern.
Yeah, 844 Northern.
And we also went to the actual Golden Spike National Park, which was on May 10th, Promontory Summit, Utah.
Right. Now, Jim came early, so Jim and I had discussed this. In fact, like I said before we got disconnected, I was sitting home. Joe told me he was going. Jim told me he was going, and he was going with his dad, who's 80 years old. He talked to his dad to go, and it was a once-in-a-lifetime thing. So he said, let's go. So they went. And again, like I said, I had put it out of my mind because Jim lives up in Westchester County. And then I get a FaceTime on my phone, and it's Jim at Ogden, Utah. And he's telling me, and he's showing me the video. So I right then and there, I enlisted him as a model railroading live reporter, cub reporter for us. And he was giving blow by blow. He was like, all you model railroaders out there, this is Jim Malloy reporting from Ogden, Utah. And I just want to show you these. So that was the first video. Unfortunately, we didn't have time, and I didn't do my due diligence by getting it posted up here. But he had a lot of fun doing it, and his father and him had gone around, and they actually chased. You got to tell them the story about your dad. You were telling your dad, "Let's go."
Yeah, it's like the morning of the 12th was leaving Ogden, Utah to go back to Cheyenne, and it was doing whistle stops all the way back. And the first stop was at Morgan, Utah, and it was about an hour away from Ogden. But 2 days prior, we scoped out a place along the railroad track where we would watch it leave Ogden. We wouldn't be at the station where thousands of people would be. We went, on the side of the road and found a nice little cubby hole. And there was probably about 25, 30 people there too. And we waited for the train to come by, and it went by. So then my father, he's 80 years old. He's just sitting in his chair, and I look at him going, "What are you doing?" He's like, "Huh?" I said, "Come on, we got to go chase this thing. I didn't come out here just to watch it go by me." So him moaning and groaning, I get him into the truck, and we get on the Parkway, Route 84, and we start chasing it. Well, we were late, but we did catch it, and we could see the tail end of it, off in the distance, and I knew it was going to stop at Morgan, which, like I said, was an hour away from Ogden. So we did drive all the way down that way. We passed it at Morgan. It was in the train station doing its whistle stop. And we went up the road probably 2 miles, 3, and pulled over the side of the Parkway and waited for the train, which other people were doing too. I mean, it was insane of how many people were chasing this train and how many people were already at key locations along this, I think it was called Echo Valley. I'm not sure, don't quote me on it, but it was like all these people just parked on both sides of the Parkway by the river. There was a small river going through, there was bridges that had to cross, a tunnel that went through. So there was people all over just waiting for it. And the train came by. I got a nice video of it. And there he is again. I'm jumping into the car, and he's standing there. And I'm like, "What are you doing? Get in the car." He's like, "Oh," he's giving me that, the 80-year-old, And I'm like, I says, "I didn't come here just to, I want to see this thing working." So we jump in the car, and we start chasing it. Now, by the time he gets in the car and we can get rolling, I'm at the tail end of the train. So I'm looking at the observation car. And now traffic is pacing the train. So you really can't maneuver to the front. I mean, unless you go on the shoulder or do something else. But there was this one opportunity. There was an exit that came right back onto the Parkway, and I saw it. So I just took it. I just slammed on the accelerator, went down this little, exit, came back up the Parkway, and I must have cut about 40 to 50 cars, got back in line, and I was right behind the steam engines. And we did take a few videos, and then we paced it for probably 10 to 12 miles, and we just watched it. It was just an amazing sight to watch it and hear it, just chugging down the rail. And then once we got down to, it was near Provo, Utah, we had to make a right and head back to Salt Lake because we were flying back home that afternoon. So that was the end of the trip, so it worked out good.
Well, you have to remember that Dave BNSFN scale says several thousand people chasing a train in cars. He's absolutely right, but he's from New York. The rules don't apply to him.
No. You just tell him, "I didn't know, I'm from out of state."
That's it. I'm from New York. I don't know.
This is how we drive.
I saw the road, I took it. What's the problem? What's the problem? But the beauty of it is that being out there, Jim was in the crowd when it was first at Ogden, right?
Right.
And we were talking earlier, and Jim said that he happened to be standing next to an elderly gentleman who used to work on the steam engines back in the day. And you heard him say to one of the other guys that what was it that?
Yeah, I don't know what kind of equipment that he was working, but he said, when he was an engineer on the steam engines, he had a 32-mile run, and he was just talking about how much resources it took. That's why steam went out of business, because of the diesel was more efficient. But on 32 miles, he would go through 6,000 gallons of water, and I forgot the number of tonnage of coal that he would burn to get only 32 miles. And then, like when you look at the trains like the Big Boy or the Northerns, of how massive they were and the distances they took, the Big Boy would take a mile-long train, of coal. How much did that burn? I don't know the numbers, but it could be,
32 miles and 6,000 gallons of water.
6,000 gallons. Yeah. That caught my ear when this guy was talking. That's 6,000 gallons of water.
That's pretty amazing. I wouldn't even have thought of that when you said that this afternoon, and we were talking. It was like I wouldn't even imagine that.
Yeah.
Like, really, that it's like when somebody says, "Well, there's X amount of gallons to an airplane."
Right.
Like, I would never think to ask, "Well, how many gallons do you need?" To operate, but 6,000 gallons of water plus the tonnage of coal,
right,
to keep that thing running only for 32 miles. And these things crisscross the country.
Now, like I said, I wasn't part of the conversation, but I would have asked, how many times did you have to stop? Because I know the train, does it hold 6,000 gallons of water at one time, or is it at 2,000 gallons and they had to stop 3 times?
Right.
I don't know the answer to that.
Right.
And again, I don't know what kind of equipment that he was on.
Right. Yeah. Ralph Renzetti says that's why there were 2 water tenders. Dave BSFN N-Scale says they used oil and almost all their water in an hour and a half. See? It needed a water tower every 3 miles. So 32 miles, that's a lot of, Michael Conley said that. 32 every 3 miles, man. That's why you see why diesel became the efficient choice of engines. And now even today in 2019, the diesel engine is more efficient and probably better upgraded. But I wish we could, and I apologize to the community out there. Jim was shooting the video doing like 50 miles an hour, and he was trying to hold the camera steady, and you could hear the wind blowing through the mic, like you could hear the swooshing sound. But the overall effect when Jim was racing and trying to pay attention to traffic ahead of him was you could actually hear the steam engine, the chicka. It was absolutely impressive. In fact, at one point, I think you said to me on the phone when you were like FaceTiming me, you said, "Bill, you got to hear this thing. It's a piece of machinery that is beyond." I mean, you were right. What was it? Gave you goosebumps.
It did. I mean, those steam engines are they're alive. I mean, they're breathing. They're spitting steam all over the place. The guys, it's just amazing. It's
just like an 80-year-old man. This is John. That's what John said. You're right. You're so right. You're so right. You're so right. How did your dad like the? Other than you pushing him like beyond, he probably needed 3 weeks of recuperation.
I mean, he had a little excitement. Like I said, I had to drive aggressively. You had to maintain. You had to maintain your spot. Because people were, trying to squeeze out. But once I got into that, that hole, I said, "That's it.
That's where you're staying.
This is mine." And
right.
I made that truck as wide as possible. So.
When Jim went, he rented a pickup truck, and I was like, "Why did you rent the pickup truck?" So he says, "Because I wanted to use the bed so I could stand up in it, look over the crowd." I said, "Look at this! I could have been the head of the family. I'm smart. See, that was good thinking. See, and then when you went, the picture you took when the train was alone,
right?
Where is that now? That was
the night shot.
Yeah, the night shot.
That was in Ogden, Utah. Yeah, I was at the Union Station. That was the night before it was leaving. So we snuck over there, And,
well, let me set this up for you guys back now. You see, everything here in New York City, when anything of this type of magnitude happens, in this city, everything shuts down. Like if this train was here and it was at Penn Station, the city of New York would have shut a 30 block perimeter down. You couldn't get in, you couldn't get out. Presidents coming to see it, the mayor, the governor, dignitaries all over. They would have shut it all down, right? But here he is in Utah, right?
Right, Ogden, yeah.
Ogden, Utah, and the steam engine's sitting out there. So in the beginning, during the day, they had literally thousands of people, right?
Yeah.
And they had a 4 block by 2 block radius cut off, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was at least a 4 by 2. It was 2 blocks, I would say north of the station, and then 4 blocks wide, to east and west. So you couldn't get into that perimeter with a car. You had to walk it in.
You had to walk.
And, we had to take a shuttle bus from down the road from one of the shopping centers. So that's how you got in.
But then later in the evening, Mr. New Yorker over here, driving in his truck, he sees the back of the shops, where they take deliveries, like a little street, right?
Yeah, it was one of those roads. It's like an access road. It's not an actual street, but it comes to the back of all these businesses. But they had a sign. It said not a through street. But I don't read well. So
He don't read.
I just
No, right. He was.
So I drove down that road, and sure enough, there was businesses, and then there was at the very last end, there was a tire place. So if anybody questioned to me why I'm here, I just said, "Oh, I got a nail in the tire, and this guy's going to fix it." So I could park in his lot, and the lot happened to be right across the street from the train.
How no?
So it was fate.
Fate. Fate.
So we used that afternoon later, and then when we went back that night, 2 nights later to see it, that night. So, again, it was the same thing. They had the roads all closed up, but I got down that side street, and we sat and got in there.
Got up close and personal.
Yeah.
And
it made it easy for my father because he is 80 years old, and he's got all his issues like everybody else at that age. So. It made it easier for him to get out, and he enjoyed it. And then that made his, trip more,
enjoyable.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So.
I agree with you. But overall, what do you think this was the highlight? First and foremost, did you and your dad talk on the trip back, and was he happy about going? And even though it was like chaotic at times,
well. To tell you the truth, I didn't talk to him at all on the plane. He
Jim, this is where you kind of like, take literary license and make stuff up.
Oh, okay. No, I'll tell you the funniest thing. He chewed the ear off this Russian guy from Brighton Beach. The zero off. I mean, this poor guy, he tells me, "Hey, Jim, this guy lives in Brooklyn." And I go, "I feel bad for you." And the guy goes, "Oh, it's okay." But he talked to him about, because we had to sit there was a 3-seater.
Right.
He had to sit on the aisle because of his knees and stuff. So I was planted against the window.
Right.
So we had the Russian guy in the middle. So I couldn't talk to him, even if I wanted to.
Yeah, but I mean, at this point, we could have had the tears rolling down the face.
Oh,
and, son, this was a great experience. It's a once in a lifetime thing,
Well, I was crying when I was pushing him to the airport in a wheelchair. Why me? Don't they hire? Doesn't JetBlue have people to do this?
All right, this is New York humor, guys.
I love my dad. I'll push him anywhere.
But it was a good experience. I mean, I could tell because you were going on and on about it.
No, it was a great weekend. I mean, it was a great 4 days. And Salt Lake City's a whole different world. It's beautiful out there. I mean, you're in this. I forgot what mountain range. It had an Indian name. It began with a W, just snow-capped mountains, and then the actual Salt Lake, and I mean, it's huge. It's just a huge lake. And, it's only 6 inches deep, basically 8 inches deep. But, it was well worth the trip. I mean, I would do it again tomorrow if I had to.
Yeah, it was good. Just for you guys that are coming in late, this is a live guest tonight we're having. His name is Jim Malloy. He's a retired former employee for the New York City Transit Authority. He was a conductor for over 30 years, and he recently just came back from Ogden, Utah, where he saw the Big Boy and the Northern. He went to see the steam engines run and actually got up close and personal with them. And him and his dad went, and he got to see the reenactment of the Golden Spike being redone again, and everybody was represented, right?
Yeah. Well, when especially at Ogden, you had the governor and a few congressmen, but when we went to Promontory for the actual 150th anniversary of the Golden Spike, I mean, it was a lot of dignitaries. I mean, Mitt Romney was there. The Secretary of Transportation, I don't know her name. Is it Chow or Cho? I forget. And, the governor, and there was a few others. And then there was one politician who's he just retired. He was there. I can't remember his name, but, they all had speeches. I mean, and then they did the actual reenactment of the Golden Spike. And that takes like 33 minutes. And they have people all dressed in the
Period
1869, costume. Well, it's a costume now, but it was their clothes then.
Right.
And
but they reenacted it.
Yeah, I like the president of the Pacific Railroad, he made his speech, like they did 150 years ago. Then the next person came up, the next dignitary, and as they're doing all this, you can hear a telegraph going off too, because somebody's narrating what's going on, because in 1869 they actually did this live so the whole country can hear the Golden Spike being laid. And actually it was 3 spikes. One was copper, one was silver. The silver came from Nevada, because Nevada was big with silver. The gold came from San Francisco, and I forgot where the copper spike came from. I think that came from the east. And they all had, different insignia, whatever they put on it, and each one of them was laid on that one tie, back then.
Plus, what they did the reenactment, they had the Chinese workers bring the last rail in,
right,
and lay it down, and then they had the other workers from the other side. They brought the rail in and they laid it down, and then they had the ceremony.
And to tell you one thing that was interesting, just before that Golden Spike, that promontory, the Chinese, they still hold the record for it. They laid down 10 miles of track in one day. And that's a record that, still stands today. But they laid 10 miles of track. I forgot, it was like 14 hours or 16, whatever it was. But it was, 10 miles. So, they get due credit for the hard work that they did.
Yeah, woo, Chinese. Yeah. Let's go, man. And they were well represented.
Yeah. Well, from this year, I mean, they even included everybody, the American, Native American, the Indians. They had a big ceremony with them. But, from what I heard from back in the day, it was like they weren't.
You said that they had the 100.
Yeah, when they had the 100th anniversary, there was a woman there. Her mother was at the 100th, and it was her father was an actual railroad worker. But
he was of Chinese descent.
Yeah, he was of Chinese descent, but she was the only person
representing
50 years ago representing all those Chinese workers. So,
Michael Conley is a former New Yorker.
Oh, yeah. Welcome back.
Well, he's living in the Midwest.
Oh.
So he goes, this is one of the most New York chats I've seen in a long time. I miss this living in the Midwest.
All right. I'll make you really feel at home. Forget about it.
I've done that 1,000 times with these guys. it's old news with them.
Don't shoot.
There you go. Don't shoot. Right. Here's my wallet. Yeah, you feel better, right? Yeah, I know. I have to tell you that it was a pleasure having Jim come down here today. He came down and Jim said, "I'll be there by 4:00." And he was like, "You ain't gonna be here by no 4:00." We got here about 4:30, 20 to 5.
No, it wasn't that
Yeah,
late.
it was late. Yeah, it was about 20 to 5. Yeah, it was 4. What do you mean, no?
Well,
Let me put the camera on black while I slap the daylight out of this guy. 4:36.
All right.
What?
4:30.
What
4:36.
time do you think you got here?
I thought I got here like 4:18.
No, 4:18.
All right. Well,
That's not Westchester clock
No.
you're going to.
all right.
All right, hang on. I got to interrupt. Michael,
What?
you feel at home again now, for sure?
For sure. See? For sure.
Where's he from?
He's from Georgia.
Oh, you're Georgia. Okay.
Yeah. It's South Brooklyn. Same thing. You know.
Oh, yeah, tell you one other story about that.
Yeah, we got more stories. I got to tell you, Jim, I met Jim at the transit. He was a conductor. He used to work uptown. I used to come up and we used to sit, and he had a later job. But this is like us sitting in the crew room talking to see. We could tell you stories that, but, it is what it is. And it was good to have Jim down here today. And I really enjoyed you coming down here. We gotta do this. Maybe we should have our own show, the Jim and Bill show.
Could do.
We could do this.
Yeah.
We got to hook you up with a camera. John, do we have enough in the discretionary funds to get a laptop and a camera?
You said to keep this G-rated. I would love to say something right now.
Yeah. Before the camera went on, I had to sit here and kind of tell Jim that you got to keep it on the G side. And he was like, "What?" Ralph, I thought Andy and I argued. You guys take the cake. That's Ralph Renzetti. Let's see. This Dale Pete, Pennsylvania Railroad guy says, "You guys need to do this every night." This is great, right? Disembodied voice from Eric Hall. Scary. Ralph Renzetti. I thought Andy and I argued. You guys take the cake. Michael Conley. Heck no. I'm from Boston, but New York is a lot closer to Boston than Indiana. I'll take the East Coast anytime I can get it. Mike's, I think, a Boston Red Sox fan.
Sorry.
Yankee fan. Die-hard Yankee fan. The evil empire.
Yes.
But anyway, what was the other story?
The one story, that this thing in Ogden was really international flavor. I mean, it was people from Japan because they introduced them, and the governor had this one interesting story, and it was a guy from England. He was a train operator. He operated steam in England, and he had a big fascination with our equipment. And when he heard that the big boy was coming back, that was his dream to come and see it. But unfortunately, the guy died. He had cancer, and he had died last year. And in his will, he asked that his ashes be put through the firebox of the 4014. And the mayor, not the mayor, the governor granted the wish because they had his daughter there. And they had a box, it was probably about this big, with his ashes. And the governor said, yes, we will put him through the firebox. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, that was. That's pretty interesting.
Yeah. So, and the guy was from England, so
yeah.
There was a lot of people from all over the place. And the interest of this, we met people on the railroad, on the roadbed. No clue what kind of train it was or whatever. They just had to come and see it because it was a big buzz out there. It was on the news, of course, the Golden Spike is, a famous thing. But, you meet these women, I just had to come out and see it, It'd go by, they'd say, oh, that was great, and they left, I thought that was pretty interesting, You know, it wasn't just train buffs.
Yeah.
You know?
Train buffs.
Train
Right.
buffs.
Right. No, you're right. You're right. You're right.
Oh, listen. You know,
they were there.
the train buffs were there. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, you had those hardcore people out there. You know, I
Yeah.
mean,
We call them ribbon counters.
you know, I saw people with black teeth from chewing on coal. You know.
They were buying it, right?
Yeah.
Some guy was selling it from Queens, New York, saying, "This actually is cold. It's on the big boy.
Yeah, that's it.
$5. Give me 2."
No, there's some hardcore people out there.
I believe it. I believe it. They had Train Magazine out there, right? The guys with the orange vests on.
Yes. I saw them at both places. I saw them up at Palmatory, and I saw them at Ogden. And railroad, a lot of railroad people themselves. I mean, because the hotel we were staying at, one morning we get up, and we were going out to the train, and there was 3 guys talking, and you could overhear, you know, it's train lingo, you know. And then, you know, my father tries to be friends with everybody, you know, and I just tell him, you know, be quiet, leave them alone. You know, they don't want to talk to you, you know. So all of a sudden he starts, "Hey, you guys here for the train?" You know, you know, "Yeah, we too. You know, we're from New York." You know, and these bozos were like, you know, you could tell they worked for the railroad. You know, one guy, you could overhear the conversation. You know, he did whatever he did for the Union Pacific. You know, okay, good feel. You know, but you can see, you know, they were in another level. You know, so.
Yeah, they were in a level called stupidity.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, you know.
That's why I said just leave them alone. You know.
Yeah. But what are you gonna do? And there's people like that all over the world.
Yeah. But you know, overall, you know, most people were, you know, I mean, Salt Lake, people move out of your way. I mean, you know, they apologize. You know, it took a while to get used to. You know.
Yeah, Jim wasn't used to that. He said people were like, "Yes, sir," "No, sir." Treat him with respect. He was like looking around. "You talking to me?"
Yeah.
So he wasn't used to the kindness and the hospitality that he received. You know, once you leave west of Newark, New Jersey,
Yeah.
things change.
Yeah, I guess Newark's the line.
Yeah, that's the demarcation right there. Everything, you know, you're back in New York when it's like, "Yo, Maloy." You know.
Oh, I can tell you a story. You know, as soon as we got back to New York, we were in the airport. I mean, I knew I was home. You know, unbelievable.
Why? What happened?
Again, my father is 80 and he needed help with getting off the plane, so we get a wheelchair. So we get a wheelchair and we're going through the airport, and the guy that's pushing him is more concerned about talking to one of his other pushers about something. And we're at the elevator, and there's probably 15 people waiting at the elevator, and there's an escalator right next to the elevator. And I asked the guy, I said, "Hey, are you going down or up?" But meanwhile, he's still talking to the guy behind him about whatever his problem was, about lunch or whatever. And at the third time I said, "You going up or down?" I just flat out yelled at him, and I go, "Would you just tell me which way are you going? Because I'll meet you there, you know?" And I said, "Stop worrying about your buddy. This is the guy you got to worry about, you know?" And then he goes, "Oh, okay, you know, you got to go downstairs." I said, "Thank you." You know, and I walked out, and I'm like, "I'm home." You know,
and then he put the ball on a plane to Brazil. Right?
I was like, you know, I'm asking you a simple question. You going up or down?
Right.
But no, I got to talk to my buddy over here. And
Yeah.
I was like, then finally I had to yell at him, you know?
And
I had to give him the, "Yo!"
Right.
You know?
Yeah,
To
yeah.
get his attention.
Right.
And,
"Yo, I'm talking to you."
yeah. You know, it's like, "I'm home," you know?
I'm
home.
back. I'm back.
Yeah.
You know, and then you went out and did you leave your car there or did you take a cab home?
No, my son picked us up.
Oh, okay. That was good. Michael Conley says west of Newark is the West. Yeah, west. Going towards the left coast. Anything west of it changes. Stuff. We came from Florida once, and this is getting off topic, but we're allowed. It's my show.
Oh, okay.
I can do that. We came from Florida. We drove up from Florida, and it was like construction going up I-95. But we flew. We came up. came over the Goethals Bridge, came to a complete standstill on the Staten Island Expressway, 15 minutes from home. It took us an hour to get home.
Mm-hmm.
It's like ridiculous. That's how you know you're home.
Right.
You know, the flavor, the people, you know, everybody's attitude changes. Nobody's polite. Then Jim was in the midst of the crowd, and the guy says, Jim, they had a handicap section, and they turned to Jim, and the guy says, hey, if you want to go up there and take some pictures, you know, just come back, you know, afterwards. It's all right. Just go up there. So, you know, in New York, if you want to do that, they'd like, you can't be up there, man. You know, what are you doing? The handicap, they got to see, they got to do this, you know, and they wouldn't allow you to do that. But Jim, being the typical New Yorker that you are, right? You took advantage of it. And then you stayed there.
Right. I became handicapped. Yeah.
So you stayed.
But I lucked out. My father did show up, you know.
Yeah.
So now I can stay with him, you know. But
right, the optics.
I did luck out, but
yeah, you used his age.
Yeah, it was, you know, because I was standing there like this, you know, and the guy just felt bad that I'm, you know, tiptoeing and trying to look over, you know, these basketball players, you know. So, you know, again, you know, people are, you know, it's a different attitude, different country, different part of the country. And you said that the scenery was beautiful. Oh, you know, it's, you wake up, you know, in the morning, the clouds are in the mountains, you know, I mean, and snow-capped. And they, you know, talking to some of the people that live there, those snow caps stay until July, you know, and then it comes back in September. So it's, you know, they're like 14,000 feet. And, you know, Salt Lake is, I think they said 43 or 4,800 feet above sea level. So
was it hard for you to breathe?
It's hard for me to breathe every day.
Okay. All right. So, you know, like were you turning blue or gasping?
No, I don't think it wasn't, you know, I wasn't.
You definitely weren't running the mile.
No, I wasn't running. No.
But did it take you, did you feel the difference atmospherically?
No, not that, you know, I don't think it didn't feel anything. You know, like I said, I wasn't exerting myself.
Yeah.
But every time I had a Monster Energy, I felt a little more buzz.
You weren't doing anything.
No, Monster Energy. You know.
Yeah. But overall, the trip was, you would say, a success, and you were glad that you went.
Yes, the weather held up. It was beautiful. I mean, it was probably 65 degrees every day, you know, sunny.
Oh, that's comfortable.
No, it was beautiful. I loved it. I mean, the first day was a little windy, and typical, you know, me, you know, we're just getting out of the winter. I'm standing there in a T-shirt and shorts, and people are going, aren't you freezing? It's beautiful. What? You know? But, you know, for the natives, they were cold, you know, but me, I loved it.
Yeah, you came out of the New York winter.
Yeah.
You know, which wasn't that too bad.
No, it wasn't, you know.
Jim was telling me of another trip he took with his, you went to Germany.
Yeah, I went to Germany this year too, you know, in late March, first week of April.
He went to follow a group of friends who were in a band.
Right.
Heavy metal band. And he scheduled a trip to go to Amsterdam.
Right.
And he got to ride on the high-speed rail.
The ice train, yeah.
The ice train.
Intercontinental Express. Germany's pride.
Tell him what happened on Germany's pride.
Well, it's a nice train. I mean, it's nothing really to, you know, brag about. But, you know, I bought a first-class ticket. And I bought a first-class ticket to be in the quiet zone. So you're actually sitting in the first car behind the motorman's cab. And there's like 8 to 12 seats in that area. And you're sitting, you know, in a glass partition from the rest of the car. And in there, you can't use your cell phone. And if you talk, you're going to be very low because, you know, you have other passengers. So we were traveling from Frankfurt to Amsterdam, which is a 5-hour trip. It makes about 5 stops. And we made the last stop in Germany. And we started to move out. We started picking up speed. And the next thing you know, the train came to a hard stop. And I'm like, you know, being somewhat of a trained professional working with the transit, I knew this was not normal. And long story short, some guy jumped in front of a.
It's sad to say it. We're laughing about it, and it's not something we should laugh about. But it just was ironic.
In the middle of nowhere, there was a small crossing, and the guy jumped in front of the train. And then later on, I found out when we were being bussed that there was a possibility that he had a kid with him. So,
yeah,
it was a bad scene.
Yeah.
So. But, here you are on these nice, supersonic trains, and you got to deal with this,
Yeah.
So, but that, so we turned into a 5-hour trip, turned into a 9-hour trip on a bus and 2 other trains to get me into Amsterdam.
And then a subway ride.
Subway ride, yeah. Then the last one was a subway ride.
Where people were on the floor.
Sitting on the floor.
Yeah, you were.
I was one of them. Yeah.
You what?
Yeah, I was dead. I was tired.
Yeah. That's not something you see on our system.
No.
No.
On our system?
Yeah.
I think I told you that. I think we take more sleeping people than anybody else, right?
Yeah, we do. Eurail is nice, but it's not the MTA. No, it's not.
No.
We have a rule, and you don't sit in the corner seats, and you don't sit in the last car.
Right. Or sit by the door.
Or sit by the door. And why don't you sit by the door, Mr. Maloy?
Why don't you sit by the door? Well, 2 or 3 things could happen.
Okay, what are they?
Well, you could be assaulted
Yes.
as the door is being closed.
Yes.
You could be robbed.
Yes.
And what could be the third thing?
Could be spit upon. That's assault.
Yeah, well. So you don't sit at the opening door.
Right.
And there's another thing. When the train's sitting in the station and there's a person standing at the door, be aware of what this person's up to. Because as soon as those doors go bing bong, you're going bing bong. So, just words of advice to those who come to our great city and visit. Because it's on video. Go out there. It's on YouTube. I mean, there's a few of them out there where you see the people getting robbed,
As the doors close.
as the doors are closing.
Right.
And by the time your phone or whatever you had in your lap, and you
Or in
realize
your hand.
and you realize it's gone, that guy is gone.
Up the stairs, because they always plant themselves by the stairs so that they take off and go up. What's the funniest thing that ever happened to you?
Funniest thing? Well, there's been several, but I think the thing that made me laugh the hardest was that there was a Dominican guy with a horse, dressed as a horse.
Dressed as a horse.
Yeah, he had fake little legs, and he had a horse. I mean, it was a horse body and head, and he had a little stick, and he'd hit the back end of the horse, and it would hop along, and he sang this song in Spanish, and he collected all kinds of money. But when I saw him get off the train and go from car to car, I was I couldn't hold myself. I mean, it was hysterical. I mean, that was one.
Gary Corbin says, "Great city, Amsterdam," and everybody gets high in Amsterdam.
Amsterdam, yeah. Oh, you can go in any store, any candy store or whatever. They got a whole section of cannabis ready to go in a can, where you want to smoke it.
They had lollipops, right?
Lollipops, whatever you could put cannabis in, they did. I mean, it was amazing. Then when you walk along the canals, they have all kinds of benches, and all you can smell is that aroma. It's pretty loud. And a lot of people, speak English, so it's easy to get around. So I'd go back.
Michael Conley says, "Give me the D train any day." And Gary Corbin says, "And beer."
And beer. Yeah. Well,
beer was good.
Well, I can get beer anywhere.
Yeah.
But,
after the 6th one, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You're only renting it anyway, so.
Yeah.
That's true. So, the D train. You worked the D. Did you work?
I worked the D.
You worked the D.
I worked the D the last few years. That's where
Yeah.
you can make money. The B, there was no money jobs on the B, but I worked the D. Bedford Park to Coney Island.
Yeah, he went from the mountains to the seashore. I went from the seashore to the mountains. You know, people would get off at Coney Island, the tourists, and they say, "Yo, where's the beach?" I said, "Just keep walking. If your feet hit the water, you went too far." But but it was all good. It was all good in the neighborhood. You know?
Well, you know, they had the shootings. Remember the McDonald's shooting?
Yeah.
That was good.
I'll tell you what. We all had to work holidays when we were new, right?
Yeah.
So when, you know, and the job you never, I know we're going about, but we're coming almost to the end here. So we're just, me and him haven't seen each other. So we're just shooting the breeze here. But yeah, so when you work the holiday, it you know, it really was a pain because, you know, your family's going out to family. You know, they're going to barbecues with friends and so and so.
And you get leftovers.
That's exactly right. You know, the wife brings home a plate with the tin foil wrapped.
Yeah, I was thinking about you.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you know. But then what happens is, you know, then every once in a while, what happens is that July 4th came, and this is what happened to me. I was working the queue, and July 4th came, and it was a it was, what's the word? Tridential? No, that's not the word.
Tremendous? No.
What?
No,
Yeah,
not traditional.
It was pouring raining.
Tridential.
Yeah.
Tridential. Well, it was a lot.
It was right. It was a lot of rain. That's all you need to. That's all you need to know. Anyway, it was a lot of rain. So everybody in the crew room had to work that day. We're like, "Hey, great day to work. Great day to work. It's pouring raining out. I'm not missing anything. Tomorrow's my regular day off, my RDO. Everybody will postpone it for the next day." I pull into Sheepshead Bay, open the doors, and I mean, it's coming. It's just sheets of water coming down. And I look in the back, and there's smoke coming out of the last car. I mean, billows.
Oh, okay. I know what you're going to say. I had it too on the A.
Billows of smoke. So, you know, being safety conscious, knowing that there's a fire on the back of this, I pull the emergency cord. I tell my motorman, there's a fire in the last car. Call FDNY. I go walking back there. I go through the cars because I don't want to walk out in the rain. And there is a nice family barbecuing a pig.
Yep.
And I'm like, "What are you doing?" They said, "Oh, man, it's raining out, bro. We can't barbecue in the beach. We got to barbecue here going back uptown." I said, "No, man, you can't barbecue." Now, here's the best part. I'm going back and forth with them on this as to what you can and you cannot have a fire on an enclosed transportation train. And as I'm doing this, here comes the fire department, and they're carrying the water cans and fire extinguishers. They don't even talk to anybody. They just came up and they started spraying down the thing, which made more smoke. So it was like this torrential, and it's torrential.
Torrential.
That was the word. Thank you, Andy.
Anthony. Yeah.
Andy. Thank you. Torrential. That's what it was.
Where's he from?
Andy's from Tennessee.
Oh, so he knows better English.
He knows better English than us. Kentucky. We're really doing that. Torrential, Kentucky. I thought he was that's the other guy. That's another guy, Andy. He's from Staten Island. He lives in Tennessee.
Okay.
This is Kentucky. He's part of the Kentucky Mafia crew.
All right.
Andy. Nice guy. Ralph Renzetti's a nice guy. All these guys are nice.
I had the same incident too.
Did you?
On the Rockaways.
On
the A line, but it was Puerto Rican Day parade. It was Puerto Rican Day, you know, and I go back there, and like you said, barbecue lit up, burgers on it, drinking beer, music blasting. But I wasn't like Bill. I didn't call the police or the fire department. I just said, just as long as you put it out by the time we get down underneath the ground. So I let them have their fun.
He was a little bit more liberal than I was. I was a little bit. Well, I was new too. So.
Well, I don't think I was that. You know, I was only a few years, but as long as it wasn't in my car, how's that?
There you go. That's what you learn later on. As long as it's not happening in my car,
I didn't see nothing.
Go do what you got to do.
That's it.
But
I'll never forget that day either.
Or
just like you said, the smoke coming out of the doors.
The smoke coming out of the doors. How about the people that used to move their apartments?
Oh, move the furniture. Yeah.
Move their apartments. I tell people that they don't believe that. I tell people today, kids that I know who are grown ups, I tell people they move. Guy came in at Prospect Avenue on the R-line one. Tells me, yo, Putty, Papo, you hold the door, Papo. So I'm trying to be a nice guy, right? Yeah. So the guy brings a chest of drawers out from through the gate, and he puts it in the doorway. And then he's like yelling at his family to come down, and they're carrying mattresses, box springs, refrigerators. I'm like, what do you think we are, the Seven Santini Brothers Moving Company?
Right. Yeah, I had that at Fordham Road, a living room set. Full couch, love seat, recliner, end tables. They all had it. They were sitting right on the platform. I thought the transit was putting out new furniture for the people. No, these people were transporting it.
Yeah.
That was, it happens.
Right. Did you ever get the guy with the motorcycle?
Well, moped. One guy with a moped, not a motorcycle.
I had a guy with a motorcycle.
I had a moped.
I said, let me get this straight. You're taking the train and you have a motorcycle. And the guy goes, it ran out of gas.
Oh, now it's safe to bring on the train. There's no flammable liquid. My guy had it full. It was full of gas. It smelled. I was like, yo, you can't stay here.
Right? Those were the good. Those were. I'm thinking I'm out of the job 10 years. It's like I never left.
Oh.
This is what we used to do.
I mean, we should start another, telecast of just transit stories. I mean, we could be here for another 2 years.
Huh. Let's see. Torrential, Michael Connolly, hysterical. You guys need to be on again. Stories to the MTA. LOL, Andy Crawford. What a shame. Indeed, we keep everything in check around here. Andy Crawford in reference to the Kentucky Mafia.
Okay.
Dale, Pennsylvania Railroad Guy Base. My sides are hurting. You are on a roll. Gary Coleman, laughing my ass off. Did I just say that?
Oh, you said it.
Did I say it? Michael Connolly, me too, tears. Michael Connolly, take this on the road. Trust me, if there's more guys that if we brought in this room, it would be Dale PPR Guy Base. This is better than Abbott and Costello. Yeah, man.
Who's on first?
I don't know who's on second, but that's
Well, here's a quick joke from the MTA. People would ask you, how long is the next train? You tell them it's 600 feet.
Yeah, they would ask that. They'd ask about the time between trains, and they'd go, what's the headway? And I go, about 7 to 8 pounds. The best one I used to like to do was they used to come up to the window during the rush hour, and they'd go to me. I'd open the doors and it'd be like crazy. Didn't matter what station you were on, but it was just like, it's chaotic, So the guy come up to me and he'd go, hey, buddy, where's 2420 West 14th Street? I'd be, what's the address? He said 2020 West 14th Street. I said, that's easy. I said, you go up these stairs. You see these first staircase here? He goes, yeah. I said, go up the stairs, go out the gate. When you get upstairs, make a right, go to the end of the corner, then make a left. All right, and it's halfway down the block. You can't miss it. It's a red awning outside next to a tobacco shop. Way to go. So I get back in the cab and somebody would hear me and he goes, is that really where it is? I go, absolutely. I don't even know what he's talking about, but I'll never see him again. There's 8 million New Yorkers here. If I ever see him again, what's the difference? He's out of my face. I don't need to talk to him. And, that's how it would go,
When I first started, I was working 34th Street in Herald Square. And I'll never forget this. F train comes in, opens the doors, closes the doors, but the train don't leave. Now, in the meantime, this guy comes running down the stairs. I mean, full blast. runs up to the conductor and goes, "This, and he's out of breath. He's like, does this train stop at 42nd Street?" And the conductor just said this, straight as an arrow. "Yes, it does, but what do you care? You're not getting on." I stood there, and I could not crack a smile because this guy would have punched me in my face. I went, oh my God.
What do you care? You're not. That's classic.
I don't know if you remember. His name was John Sterling.
Oh yes, I know John.
He was a little.
Yeah, right. He was a little left of the bell-shaped curve.
I'll never forget that. I cried.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. What was the other one too? When people would run down the station, they say, "Oh, come on, open the door," and you say to them, well, "You're the first person for the next train." Yeah. Right. I'll never forget when we were at Metropolitan. Right. That's the last stop on the M train. Remember, a woman come walking down the platform. She's got earplugs in, listening to her radio. The conductor, the bell goes off, saying it's time to go. The conductor goes, "This is the M train to Manhattan and Brooklyn. Watch the closing doors." He shuts the doors. He pulls out. She pulls her earplugs out and starts cursing at him. "Why'd you leave me on the platform?" And he says, "Because you were listening to your freaking radio." Right. She came in. She made a formal complaint about it. And I was like, "What are you kidding me? Out of your mind?" I remember when I was new, I was working 95th Street. I didn't know any of the lingo, train language. So the dispatcher, I was maybe 4 days on the job, and the dispatcher turns to me and he goes, "Hey, conductor, do me a favor, go outside and clean that train out and close it down." So what does that mean? Somebody tells you to clean something out. I go down, I find the broom, I start sweeping the train. So I'm out there and I'm getting to the second, third. Next thing I know, the dispatcher, his name was McNamara. Remember Mr. McNamara?
Yeah.
He goes, "What are you doing?" I said, "You told me to clean the train out." He goes, "No, make sure there's nobody on the train and then close it down. Don't clean it." I was like, "Oh."
So when were you taught in that school card to clean out,
Yeah. Nobody would. And what was the other thing they used to say? It took me about almost a year to figure out when they used to say ABD.
ABD.
I didn't know what that stood for until somebody said abandoned.
Well, deadhead, any of that stuff.
Or abadabadoo. They said that a lot down on 95 in Coney Island. We're abadabadoo in the train.
Oh.
I didn't know what that meant. I said, "What's abadabadoo?" They said, "We're abandoning the train. We're taking it. It's not going to run. It's going on a stretch." Stuff.
I never heard that. That must have been a Brooklyn thing.
Must have been. The Bronx, they did things differently. Yeah. They changed. Everything's changed.
Yeah.
Everything. That's why Jim and I got out. I got out 10 years ago. Jim just got out 16 months. And he's not looking back. He's enjoying his retirement.
Yep. Not looking back.
That's it. Let's see. What's this? Captain Train, CPR Train says, "I love your stories. Keep going with these stories. Please, Michael Connolly, honestly, write a book. Guys, these stories are great. Some of them made up."
I can tell you one. I used to work Yankee Stadium during the games. Work the platform, and for overtime, and you'd meet all kinds of people. And because Yankee Stadium is Yankee Stadium, people would just go to the game. They wouldn't be into baseball, nothing, but they would just come see the Yankees. And you'd meet all kinds of people. And this one particular couple, older, they were from Australia. And they were here, on vacation and, just start because they'd come down and ask me, how can I get to 34th, and I'd tell them, okay. So we're sitting there and, I'm curious, why are you in New York? Why are you coming to see the Yankees? So the next thing you know, two rats run by on the roadbed. And the woman goes, "Oh, rats, I said, "Oh, don't worry about it. Those are our kangaroos." True story. I'm not making it up. They laughed.
Those are our kangaroos. Man, oh man. Yeah, Marty's from Australia.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's in the afternoon there. So his wife's from the States. He married a woman from the States.
Okay.
She Minnesota, and she went back there. But it's hey, that's the best. The job was hard. Once you got on the train, you had to be serious and take it seriously because it was your livelihood, and you were putting food on the table, and getting ready for your pension and whatever. So you had to make sure everything was on the up and up.
I mean, overall, it was a good job. I mean,
it was a very good job.
I mean, you were responsible for yourself, basically. You didn't have nobody on your back.
Right. No immediate supervisor present.
So, I mean, you had to be on time. That was the biggest thing, just getting the work on time.
Right.
Which probably was the hardest, for some people, that's the hardest thing to do, is be on time.
Right. Because the train was, if your reporting time was 5 a.m., the train was leaving at 5:15.
Right.
So if you pulled up and, came upstairs at 5:16, the train left.
Right.
The train has gone, and you're now in a world of pain. Because now the boss has got us, why are you late? And depending on your relationship with the boss and the type of employee you are, you either, walk with a stern talking to, or it could be,
you would, you'd lose that day's pay, and then, if they feel fit, you'd lose a couple more days' pay. It'll teach you to be on time.
Yeah. Exactly.
But, not for nothing, transit has hired children over the years. Grown-ups that just don't, they don't get it. And, then people who take the job a little more seriously, you have to pay for it. But
right.
Other than that.
Glass asked, have you guys ever had a scratch bill? That somebody who put something together by, ever come in and check out your cab door with a measuring tape? We never had anybody like that, but what we get a lot down in the subway system is we would get a lot of what Jim said earlier was train buffs. We get guys who were wanting to be part of the New York City Transit Authority, be an employee, knew everything there was. I mean, I had one guy who knew the times, the schedule of all the trains, AM, PMs, and midnights on the N line. And, they know everything, but for some reason they can't work for the Transit Authority because some sort of a physical, mental problem. But they're there, some guys would entertain them, let them buddy up with them, and they'd take them in the cab and let them ride. And that's what we had that incident. Remember on the A train, one guy became friendly with the train buff. He was 16, and he brought the kid in the cab and he showed him how to operate. And the kid knew the system, he knew the signaling, and he was 16 at the time. And I guess, and he must have given him a set of handles to use, and he gave him a shirt that he wasn't going to use anymore, TA shirt. And one day the kid showed up with the bag in hand, shirt on his back, and he signed on and got on the next train out and took it all the way to Far Rockaway, and then turned around and came back up when he reached, I think it was like 116th going to leaving 125, leaving 116 going to 125, he hit the automatic because he came around the curve too fast, and he reverted back to a 16-year-old. Instead of letting the train charge up again and then pulling out, then he could have got off the train at 207th Street and walked away. He panicked, got off the train, and left the train.
Right.
Then there was a full investigation. And then once the Transit Authority puts their full force behind an investigation, everybody goes. Everybody if you even shook hands with the guy, you were going. You were going, How common is signal running or blowing red lights? Absolutely common. Absolutely. It's
But the thing is, what you do after that.
Yeah.
That's the biggie.
Right.
I mean, you got guys hitting that all the time, but
now what they've instituted in the safety procedure, and it's a pretty. You have to admit, it is a pretty safe system.
yeah.
I mean, it is. I mean, the way they had the signal blocks, and
Well, I mean, just look, how many incidents they have. I mean, you only had that one big, the 14th Street one,
right?
And the guy was supposedly drunk and stuff. I mean, that happened, but it doesn't.
It's like everything else. What happened on the 14th Street when the guy, what was his name? Hayes, I think. Robert Hayes.
Ray.
Robert E. Ray. Robert Ray. He came down the express, and the way the procedure calls for it is when he comes down the express, for him to go back to the local, to Brooklyn, the signal's got to be what they call a home signal. It's red over red. He's got to come to a complete stop. But once again, at that time, back in the 80s, what happened is everybody gets comfortable. The tower operator knows that train's coming down. He puts the signal yellow over yellow and leaves it because he knows the train's coming. He's not going to follow protocol. He's not going to follow the safety. So when that guy took that switch, he literally cut that train in half and everything just pancaked. The interesting story behind that is when that train derailed, it took out about 18 to 20 columns underground. It sheared them right off, the steel posts that hold the street up. And what happened was when first responders showed up, FDNY with their trucks, engines, police vans, ESU showed up. They parked right over that. And one of the firemen came down and saw the damage that was done, and he ran back upstairs, and he had all the trucks go down the side streets because had they stayed up there, the weight would have crushed the street above them, and they would have come into the train station. So, but again, safety-wise, it's pretty safe. Everything is. They tell you it's a fail-safe system, but there's not such thing as it's like bulletproof glass. It's bullet-resistant. There's nothing that's going to stop it. If you're not paying attention and you're daydreaming, or you fall asleep and it happened, you're going to hit a signal. It's like Jim said. It's what you do after you hit the signal. How do you compensate for that? If no one's injured, if it wasn't detrimental, you went through it and it was a mistake, they take that into consideration. So it's safe considering the age. Yeah, it's over 100 and some odd years old.
Right.
When Jim and I first started, when did you start? What year?
88.
I came in 81. There was a time when he can tell you when I was up there in 207th Street on the A line, the bathroom facilities were right.
You shake everybody's hand when they came by and you're sitting there.
That's right. I said to the guy at 2, where's the bathroom? He goes, right over there. And it was a plywood door with a rope on it. And I had to go to the bathroom, and there's the toilet right in the middle, and the urinals were all around it.
That was, to tell you how funny that was, when I was being trained, a conductor opened up his bag and goes, "Kid, this is going to be the most important thing you carry down here." And I was like, what could it be? And he pulls out a roll of toilet paper. He says, "Don't leave without this." And, toilet paper. But when you work down there, you know why? You need toilet paper because the facilities were... I think we got to thank the women for that.
Yes, yes.
And, if anything positive about the women being down there, they cleaned up the bathrooms.
They did. They made it a point because, I kid and joke with the guys here when I talk about my railroad here.
Mm-hmm.
I said, when you guys come over to operate, I take the door off my bathroom and I loosen the toilet seat and I throw newspaper in the corner and I urinate on it and then turn the heat up and then give you small pieces of newspaper to clean yourself. And they laughed. But how serious was that?
Yes, it was.
They think it was funny, but that's right.
Again,
there'd be no toilet. There'd be rats in the toilet. Yeah. And you'd have to go. You did. So. Let's see. Where am I? Where are we? Well, Sparky's late. Good afternoon. Good evening, model railroaders. I think I'm a bit late. I blame the time change. Andy Crawford says, yes, fail-safe system until you get humans involved, if that. This is true. Everything, it is. But listen, it's 10:23.
Wow.
Yeah, having fun.
Yeah, it was fun.
It was, right? It was good. Enjoyed Jim being here. I haven't seen Jim in a while. We talk on the phone a lot, and we could tell you other stories, but they were not appropriate for because this will be rebroadcasted.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. This will go down in forever.
Okay.
So if we say anything, the PC police.
So my check will be in the mail.
John actually is in charge of finances.
All right, John. Lost you, huh?
John went deaf all of a sudden.
We got a hurricane down there.
What? Anyway, that's it. Basically, he's got a motorcycle parked outside, a humdinger of a motorcycle. How long did you race for? We got some motorcycle enthusiasts.
Well, I still actively, go out and have some fun once in a while. I just came back from Daytona, so I was down there doing a couple laps.
Did you?
Yeah. As big as I am, I'm still doing it. So it's about 28 years. 28 years.
Good for you. Good for you. Anyway, this is the show. I want to thank Jim Malloy for coming.
I want to thank you for inviting me.
Been a long time. We went out to dinner together. It was nice. We caught up on some old things and people who's died, who retired, stuff like that. We're getting older. When I first met him, he had a lot darker hair.
Yeah.
And he was a lot skinnier.
Yeah.
Yeah. And stuff like that. But anyway.
Living a good life.
Living the good life. Living the dream. Yeah. Living the dream.
Look, see, I ain't got a watch on because I don't care what time it is.
Neither do I. I don't wear it anymore. I tell the sun by the sun. I get up when it's light and I go to bed when it's dark. It's the best thing about being retired. Isn't it good being retired?
Oh, it's a great thing. Everybody should try it.
Everybody.
At least once.
At least. At least. You heard it. Jim Malloy. Well, Jim, I want to thank you for being here. I want to thank you guys out there for listening and for being a part of the community. Because without you, we just talking to dead air. And I'm glad that Jim went to see the big boy, and I'm glad that he shared that experience with us.
Well, too bad we didn't have videos, but
yeah, that's blame me. Blame me. I didn't put it together. I didn't. Ralph Renzetti said maybe we can put it on our Facebook page.
Well, there's one you can look at. I got one posted on YouTube, and it's UP. Big Boy, number 4014, Ogden, Utah. And you'll find my video. I think it's a minute 30, and it's just leaving Ogden train station going up to Morgan. So if you look at that, you type that in, you can find it. So that's it.
Okay.
But I'm going to try to put the other ones on. So
he's trying to get his son to put it up, but his son's like,
yeah, I have no account. I'm illiterate when it comes to computers and phones and.
No, you just never did it before.
No,
and you really don't want to.
Yeah, I have no interest in it. I'm not a Facebooker. I'm not a tweeter. This, that. So.
Yeah. Well, anyway, tomorrow is Johnny's Train Talk show. Mosey on down to Johnny's Train Talk general store there where you can sit down. You should go down to Johnny's Train Talk.
Where is Johnny's?
It's down in it's on this, but it's down in Georgia.
Oh.
But he has a general store where you can mosey on in and, good old boys, sit down at the checker table and shoot the breeze, grab a cold soda from the ice box, it's old time place. And talk trains.
What town is it?
What town is it? It's right now it's YouTube town.
YouTube.
And but you can join you can join in
if you're off 95, I don't care, I'll stop in, you don't have to ask me twice.
Yeah.
Oh, 75, 85, okay.
Yeah, so. But anyway, thanks, John, for directing and producing this show. And thank you all for watching. And we just want to say take care, God bless, and we'll see you guys on the radio. Bye-bye.